Hi, everyone. Hello. What's going on, guys? Happy, what is today? Monday. Happy Monday. Thanks for joining us. Another episode of Leading the Charge. I think this is the camera that I'm going to be on. It's so weird being in here by myself. Normally, I would have Dom Tibbetts or Howard Simon or somebody next to me. Tonight, it is me riding solo. Mike Catalana from Buffalo Plus and then Howard Simon are both going to join virtually. Obviously, send us your question. Hey, Cheryl. Yes, I made it. Hi. Good to see you tonight. Hope all is well. Obviously, fire off any comments that you guys might have. We're going to just kind of be talking about the Bills offseason up to this point, what we like, what we don't like, what moves we think that they should have made, moves that they made that we really like. We'll, of course, answer some questions along the way. Earlier this morning, I also had a chance to talk with Elijah Moore, the new Bills wide receiver, so we'll have some of that coming up later. I'm sorry for being a little distracted. I'm trying to do two things at once because I'm trying to see how the Sabres do in the NHL draft lottery. So it looks like they're going to be, the Sabres got pick 9. Wow, they moved back 2 spots. So the worst possible outcome for the Sabres is what they got in the NHL draft lottery, which is so incredibly on brand for them. So Howard, I see you in the private comments. Howard, we're going to talk to Mike probably in the first block, and then we'll talk to you in the second block if that's okay on your end. Thank you, Howard, for listening. Leading the Charge starting soon. So a couple of you messaged me, a couple of people commented on Facebook and on the different like apps and platforms and stuff. And they were like, hey, is Leading the Charge coming back? And yeah, Leading the Charge is going to come back. We decided that it made sense to bring it back in some capacity, really for the next couple months, all the way through football season, because there are so many things that are going on. 1 minute control room. Is that what they said? I think so. So we're 1 minute away from coming in on TV. So we'll basically, if you're watching on the stream, you'll see everything in the show. I'll be having the conversation. But we'll just kind of pause quickly so we can get ready to be on TV and everything, because it's on both of the platforms, on television and on the web. It's so funny that the Sabres got the worst pick possible with the 9th overall pick. That is so funny. I mean, it really makes no difference. All right, Julia's coming out here. Big Julia's getting ready. Big debut. Come over here. Come sit on the chair. 15 out. Wow. Is it literally right at 11? Or yeah, right at 7:30. Oh, I forgot about the open. Okay. Yep. Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Leading the Charge. We are back. Last week, we had our first episode of the offseason. We enjoyed it so much that we said, hey, why not do it again? I hope you're all having a great night. I'm 7 Sports Director Matt Bove. Dom Tibbetts enjoying some much-deserved time off after covering the Buffalo Bandits over the course of the last couple days. So tonight, we're going to have some new friends join us in the conversation. We're going to talk a little bit about the Bills offseason, what we like, what we don't like, where we think they need to go from here, and just what big questions we have as we're getting ready for the upcoming 2025 season. If you were a Buffalo Sabres fan, well, they got the worst possible pick they could in the NHL draft. They're picking 9th, so let's let you in on that little secret before we get started. But we're going to start tonight with Mike Catalana, one of my buddies from Rochester, 13 Wham, the TV station. Also, of course, Buffalo Plus. Mike, hello, sir. Good to see you. Thanks for doing this. I appreciate it.
No problem. Good to be on with you, Matt.
Are those all your credentials behind you?
You know, it's funny. My daughters did this. So one is credentials and one is tickets from actually paying money and going to games. But the credentials, what was fun about that was, I mean, there's the first Bills Super Bowl, the second Bills Super Bowl, the third Bills, all of them are in there. They were all different back then. In fact, they had your name on them on like a little strip of, paper that went on the top, and they were all made of paper. Now, they all kind of look alike, but they were cool back then. I got a Masters one from Augusta, got US Open. I got a bunch of cool ones.
That's so cool. So cool. How are you enjoying the offseason? I know it's never really an offseason, but do you feel like things are pretty calm right now?
Yeah. I mean, look, by this point, like you've had your draft, you've had your free agency, though there's obviously still players out there. I got to be honest with you. I'm looking forward to the schedule, maybe more than anything. I want to see how it plays out for this team. It's so much fun now. Before it used to be when they were in the drought, it was like, could they be on a primetime game? Now we know it's 5, 6, whatever it is. And we know they're going to be probably keeping us busy on the holidays. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that because I think we've already sort of wrapped our heads around what they've done in this offseason. And now it'll be, we'll go to rookie camp Friday and then start seeing the team a little bit more. But yeah, I love the season. I enjoy this part of the offseason too, because it's content for us to talk about.
Yeah, you kind of led us perfectly into this because you're a television pro, so you get it. Their roster is pretty much built. This is basically the team that they are going to training camp with. Maybe there's a couple additions here and there, but probably nothing major. What do you think? Do you like the team that they've assembled?
Yeah, look, they were a really good team last year. I think they needed to do what they did defensively. And we just did our own podcast today. And, when you look at what the defense has done in this offseason, it is a bit of an overhaul, right? I mean, there is a lot of changes. There's guys that, we didn't expect to be back, but, the way they attacked the draft, and especially the defensive line and, edge rushers plus in free agency, it really is, it's going to be a different look. The offense remains pretty close to the same, except some of those changes at wide receiver. But I like the approach they've taken. Now, we always say this. At least I do, and Dan and Jenna get used to hearing me say it. I say you don't fill needs in the offseason, you address them because you never know how it's going to play out, especially for young players. But that being said, I think they needed to do a lot of what they did, and I'm pretty happy with it.
Who is the addition that you're the most excited about, or the player that you think has the most potential at really making an impact?
And it's kind of a cop-out to say this because he's a number one pick, but I did not expect Maxwell Hairston to be their number one pick because I don't think it fits with their norm is the type of player they go for in terms of size, maybe what their strengths are and all. But the more I've looked into what he does and the dynamic that I think he brings to that defense, and we've talked about this a lot, they really lacked speed in that secondary. So not just for the speed, but for the closing ability on plays. Obviously, I'm excited about him in terms of that. It's funny when we were talking about today what's going to be going on. I'm kind of excited from the free agency point. And the shame of it is we're going to have to wait to see him in action is a guy like Michael Hoyt, because I think he can bring something to that pass rush from a guy who's been there and done it. And I think he's going to hit the ground in week 7 going, I owe something here. I got to make up for this. So I want to see him. That's where the shame of that 6-game suspension really, really hurts these guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we switch to the offense, right? The big additions that they made, really the only additions that they make are wide receiver Joshua Palmer and then wide receiver Elijah Moore. If you had to guess right now, who do you think's more involved in this offense? It's weird because I think it would be easy to say Palmer. He was the first move that they made. But I feel like there's a path for Elijah Moore to really be a difference maker.
There is, but I think it's going to be Palmer. I think of what he does that is needed. Now, that doesn't mean it can't happen with Elijah Moore. But, I mean, based on what they appear to be paying him and when they got him, I do think it's probably Palmer has been at least in their plans that way. And then I almost think of Curtis Samuel as a new player, because if he's healthy this year, I think we'll get to see what they brought him in for, because they paid him. That's the thing. I mean, they paid these guys at least a decent amount. Certainly those two, Samuel last year and Palmer this year. So not that Elijah Moore can't help them, but I still think at the moment, that's where I would rank them behind Khalil Shakir.
Last one for you, Mike. Who is the player who could really make a notable difference for this team who nobody's talking about? Like you just mentioned, Max Hairston, right? He was their first pick. People are talking about him in some capacity. The wide receivers always get talked about because they're wide receivers and they get the ball from Josh Allen. Who could be the sneaky difference maker?
Yeah, I think that one's going to be interesting to see because I think a guy like Deion Walker, because of where they got him and what he brings to them size-wise, I guess until we see them out on the field, we don't know. But I look at a guy like that and say physically alone, he's a different player than anything they have out there. And could that get him on the field quicker? I think Sanders is going to be really good. I think he's a talented player on the defensive line. But if you look at that, I think he is the type of player that maybe because they got him a little later, maybe because his numbers weren't as good and he did have that back injury, that they might think a little bit differently. But I think he's the type of player, again, this is said before I've seen him for 1 second out on the field.
Yeah.
But he's the type of player that I think they have needed, even if he isn't exactly the type some people were looking at in terms of position strength for defense.
Hall of Fame guy for doing this, because I asked him right at the end of, like, literally a couple hours ago. And then Howard put in the private comment, New York State Broadcasting Hall of Fame. I have 2 Hall of Famers joining me tonight. I have you, and then I have Howard coming up. How did I get so lucky?
It's just goals for you, because you fit in with Howard and I more than your viewers probably know.
That's a very, very good point. You go have a scone and a cup of decaf coffee. I'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good.
Thanks, Mike. All right, that was Mike Catalana. He's the best, obviously. We appreciate him joining us. On the television side of things, we are going to take a quick break. If you are watching on the stream right now, and there's a lot of you that are doing that, don't go anywhere. We'll answer a couple questions during the commercial break. And then on the other side, Howard Simon will join me, the other Hall of Famer. Don't go anywhere. You're watching Leading the Charge right here on all of Channel 7's platforms. All right. Thank you, Mr. Catalana. I see Howard in there. Hi, Howard.
How you doing?
Hello.
What's going on?
Oh, nothing. How are you?
Good. I brought this. I don't have a Super Bowl credential.
Wow.
I threw
Buffalo
it- I
Bills
must have
press
thrown
box.
it out.
What year is that?
1999.
Oh, Music City Miracle year. Ugh. Not great.
Yeah. I didn't save stuff enough back then. I only covered one Super Bowl. I must have thrown the credential out.
What Super Bowl did you cover?
The last one, Georgia.
That they were ahead at half, right?
Halftime. Yeah.
Did anybody think, like, at halftime, did it feel like they were going to win?
I thought
Yeah.
there were a lot of Cowboys fans in the Georgia Dome. I remember, because I wasn't in the press box. I was in the spillover press seating in the stands.
Yeah.
I remember walking. I had to go to the bathroom at halftime. I just remember walking around, seeing Cowboy fans and thinking to myself, we're going to beat you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it didn't work out.
No, it did not work out.
No.
Hey, did you see that stat about the Mets on May 4th every year?
I heard there was a wacky stat. I don't want. I'm going to guess they've never won a game on May 4th.
They have lost their last 15 games or something. Or no, it wasn't May 4th. I think it was their 35th game of the
34th
season.
game of the year.
They have lost 15 straight times,
Nice.
which is just ridiculous.
We're just going to skip the 35th game in the schedule next year.
Just forfeit it. Get everybody a rest.
absolutely.
You already know that they're going to lose.
No, I'm just going to tell them to schedule the Mets for 161.
161. I like that.
Just skip
What
one
did you-
game.
Did you have tours today?
Yes, just a few. Not. It's really not that busy yet.
Well, it's so rainy too these last couple of days.
Yeah, and it was not that bad today. It was around 60, but you know what? It won't pick up until after Memorial Day weekend.
If you're watching in the comments or if you're just watching, Howard Does Tours is now at the Falls. You posted the link. You can take a tour with Howard Simon. That'd be great.
And I'll get Matt Bove to come alongside if the Matt Bove fan club wants to have a tour. Like they might actually say we're only going to go if Matt is there.
You know, it's funny. The Matt Bove fan club would be in Wheatfield. And if you're in Wheatfield, you're only 10 minutes away from Niagara Falls anyway. So you've been there or done that.
Come on over. We'll get Matt to make an appearance at Goat Island.
All right. We are about 45 seconds away. Let's take Howard, put him backstage real quick, and then I'll intro him at the start of the block, and then we'll go from there. Guys, if you have any questions, feel free to comment in the video. Either I or Howard will answer the questions. And then at the end of the show tonight, we're going to hear from Elijah Moore. He had a pretty good interview with me earlier today. Oh, there's like 650 people already watching. And this isn't even in the season. That's pretty cool. 10 seconds out, everyone. Welcome back on the TV side of things. We hope you are having a lovely start to your Monday, end of your Monday. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Leading the Charge, joined by Hall of Famer now, Howard Simon. So we go from one Hall of Famer to another Hall of Famer.
I don't know how you can afford this. Yeah, I mean, this is going to cost you. Your expenses for this show are going to be skyrocketing.
Can you imagine what a disappointment I will be if, like, I'm not in any Hall of Fames ever after talking to you two all day?
Is there a Wheatfield Broadcasting Hall of Fame?
No, there's not. And I don't think I would make it because Bob Kaczynski also went to Wheatfield.
Where'd you go to college?
Buff State. So
Probably
you're not there either.
No, you're not getting in there. So
No,
all right, I'll see.
no,
I
that
got
one's
some
too
out.
That's too prestigious for me.
I'll
Hey,
talk to people.
a week ago, we had you on and we were just talking about the draft, and then there was also all the wide receiver stuff, right? So, yes, last week's conversation was kind of all over the place. What do you think of what they did this offseason? I really like the team they've assembled.
I do. I think it's good. I just laid out offense, defense, special teams. I'm looking back at all the moves, the free agents, the re-signs, the draft. It's on paper, which means totally nothing. But if you had to put out a plan of attack and say, here's what I need the Bills to cover, here's what they need to fill, blah, blah, blah. They had a good offseason. They hit their needs, right? They, offensively, you didn't have to touch the O-line. The quarterback, he's got a shot. Wide receiver, they added competition. They added speed. I know you were talking to Mike about, different things. I'm looking forward to Palmer. They needed to add someone like that to this offense, but they added wide receivers. They re-signed Ty Johnson, which I think was a really important move, quite honestly, especially with James Cook's contract up in the air. And then defensively, Matt, they hit what they needed to hit, right? Got to add defensive ends, got to add defensive tackles, got to add cornerbacks. They did all three. So, yeah, on paper, I thought the glaring areas that needed to be addressed were addressed.
Did they do enough, though? Because I remember before the season even ended, Joe and I, with you here, would have the conversation of big swing. Go get Myles Garrett. Go trade for Max Crosby. Like, they didn't do anything like that. I feel like there was a quantity. They did a lot of moves, but maybe not of many quality moves as we were anticipating. Like I said, I like it, but did they do enough?
No. Well, if your version of enough is, did they get a difference maker? No, they didn't get a difference maker. I was just looking back at some notes of the end of season presser with Brandon Beane and the combine and all that. And in one of those two, somebody asked about getting a difference maker for the defense. And his answer was, it's hard to find these guys, obviously. But did they get that person? No, because the closest thing to that defensively is Bosa. But realistically, how many snaps is he going to play per game? I mean, they're going to be very careful with his snap count, I would think. So from that standpoint, did they get a wide receiver who would make you go, holy, what? Good luck covering this guy. No. So they didn't get that guy, Matt. But I think honestly, it's not a one big name. It is the quantity and the quality of the quantity that you hope has made this top to bottom a better roster.
And that's the thing. I keep looking at the roster and how it all pieces together, and I'm unbelievably impressed, especially with the defensive line. Their defensive line overhaul is not something that we should just kind of skim over. They needed an overhaul, especially in that area, and they really did it. They infused youth. They've got some playmakers that they've added. I like what they've done, and I like how many moves they've made. We have to wait to see how it plays out because of Hoyt and Ogunjobi, the suspensions, in the most Buffalo way possible. But it feels like if there's one theme to the offseason, that has been the theme. Fix the defensive line because your offensive line's good, your quarterback's good.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think the key part that you mentioned that to me is important is the infusion of youth, because the Bills have turned over the defensive line. It seems like on a yearly basis, it's signing veteran free agents up front. You had your core pieces. You made the big signing for Von Miller, but you'd add a Leonard Floyd. They brought in the Tim Settles of the world. They would add in veteran free agents for 1 or 2 years on that defensive line. But in terms of investing in someone you could lock in, Russo's here, we know that. Oliver's here. I think drafting Landon Jackson could turn out to be a really good move. And we'll see how Walker and Sanders develop, but they really needed to bring in young defensive linemen who you hope are going to succeed and lock in for the next 4 years at least.
Think about the last couple of years. They called back Jordan Phillips, right? They called back Quentin Jefferson. They're just going back to the well of veterans who have done something in Buffalo because those were the best options out there. Now you've kind of insulated yourself with guys like Deion Walker and TJ Sanders and Larry Ogunjobi when he comes back. So there's a lot there. We've talked about a lot of names, and I asked Mike the same question, but I'm interested from your perspective. Who's your favorite addition that the Bills have had so far this offseason?
Look, I'm going back on offense, and I'm all about scoring points and helping Josh Allen. So I'm going to go with Joshua Palmer. To me, I'd like to see what his role is in this offense. I mean, if you look at the wide receiver depth chart, Somebody's not making it, by the way. I mean, they brought in what? Chenault. They just officially announced Moore. They brought in Palmer. They have Coleman. He's not going anywhere. They have Shakir. I like Samuel. I honestly, we talked about him so much last year. I was so excited going into the season. And then it just never materialized until the very tail end of the season. He then started to make contributions that I thought he could do for this offense. But to me, I'm really interested to see how Palmer fits in, what's his role, how much his speed can help. I mean, Sean McDermott at the end of the season said, we always like to add speed to the wide receiver group, whether it's flat out speed or a guy who can get yards after catch. I'm excited to see what Palmer can do with Josh Allen.
Yeah, and Elijah Moore definitely brings a lot of that speed and verticality that they've been looking for as well. All right, once again, I said the same thing to Mike, but thank you for joining me. I thought I had Dom here, but we put Dom on Bandits duty over the weekend. And because game 3 of the Bandits series would have been on Saturday, I had him working Saturday. I didn't know that they were going to sweep Vancouver. I should have assumed because they're so good. So I was all by myself. So I appreciate you hanging out with me.
So you're telling your audience that you have no idea what you're doing because you didn't believe in the Bandits sweeping that series.
I thought they'd win, but I thought it would take 3 games instead of 2 games.
Matt, show a little faith in hometown teams, buddy.
My gosh, I know. I'm just going to get yelled at now. During the commercial break, I'm going to get yelled at. Bye, Howard.
Love you, Matt.
Love you, Howard. All right, that was Howard Simon. So in the last segment, we don't have any Hall of Famers. We just have me. So I'm sorry to disappoint, but we will have an interview with Elijah Moore, the Bills' newest wide receiver. That's coming up if you're watching on TV on the other side of the break. All right. Thank you very much to Howard and to Mike Catalana for joining me. Guys, if you have comments, if you have questions, please fire them off. Let me know where you're watching from. Obviously, we have gone, 20 minutes into the show, trying to answer as many questions as possible. Julia, if you're listening to the control room, I guess just come out here and give me like a cue for the final thing. And then we'll hear from, you're on TV. Oh, wait, no, you're just in the stream.
No, I'm not on TV.
Just Julia in the stream. Everybody say hi to our producer, Julia. This should be a segment.
This should be a segment.
Did Josh Allen show up to the Met Gala?
Well, I'm letting our viewers know that I, as the Met Gala correspondent.
Oh, Michelle, let's go. Everybody's back there. Let's go.
As the Met Gala correspondent, Josh Allen has not made an appearance with Haley Steinfeld on the red carpet yet.
Well, if he hasn't done it yet, then he probably won't be there, right? It's pretty late.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it starts at 8. So he's
not going to be fashionably late.
Yeah, I don't know.
What is your bit going to be for the upcoming season?
What is my bit going to be?
Yeah, we need a bit for you. Like, you
like
can pop in.
I could easily do like a Mets. Something.
Yeah, you guys could do a Mets something, but we got to fix the Wi-Fi in the control room because you're freezing all over the place.
I know.
All right. Thank you, Julia.
30 seconds left.
30 seconds. All right. If you're watching, we are going to. Do you think Elijah Moore or Josh Palmer will be wide receiver 1 during the season? I think wide receiver 1 during the season is going to be Khalil Shakir. I think wide receiver 2 is going to be Keon Coleman. Then one of these 2, I think, will be wide receiver 3. I could see it being Elijah Moore, though. All right, welcome back, everyone. Let's throw Joe's comment up. He just commented on Twitter. We were talking about it a little bit during the commercial break. He says, do you think Elijah Moore or Josh Palmer will be wide receiver 1 during the season? So I still think that wide receiver 1 is going to be Khalil Shakir. Like, if you asked me right now, who's going to lead the Bills in receptions this upcoming season, I would absolutely say Shakir. I think Keon will probably lead them in touchdowns. He was trending in that direction before the injury in the middle of last season, never really was able to get back to form. Just his frame, the way he's able to kind of box out opponents. We've seen Josh Allen trust him in the red zone, throwing up for a 50-50 ball and seeing if he can come down with it. So I think those 2 will still probably be their primary 2 wide receivers, their wide receiver 1 and their wide receiver 2. I know that both Mike and Howard brought up Joshua Palmer. I think Elijah Moore is going to be a really nice piece for this offense. 61 catches in Cleveland last year. I just think that there is a lot of untapped potential for a player like that now stepping in to this offense. And coincidentally enough, earlier today, I literally talked to Elijah Moore down in Orchard Park. I was there for a story I was working on. He walked in to sign his contract. He was nice enough to take a couple minutes. So let's listen to that conversation with the newest member of the Buffalo Bills, wide receiver Elijah Moore. Buffalo?
Really, when I came, I mean, obviously, besides playing, you guys since I got in the NFL has been something to see for sure. Being on the other side of it has been something that, you peek over, you watch the games, and you see the fluency. You see 17. You see the way the defense and the offense does together as a team. Special teams and all. So it was always intriguing. But obviously where you're at, you try to be where your feet are at. But then obviously over the years, when you have the opportunity to kind of finally peek other places, if that presents itself, I play receiver. 17's been doing his thing. A lot of receivers who come here do their thing, and kind of what you guys stand for. You guys feed the ball to everybody as far as what it looks like. And, you guys play together. You guys seem like a tight-knit group as far as what's presented on social media. And when I speak to some of the guys, how they feel about Buffalo. It's cold, and you won't kind of expect the camaraderie and the fellowship that, we hear about on the outside. And it's just something that, you couldn't kind of deny. So when the opportunity presented itself to just see what it felt like, meet the coaches and meet some of the teammates again, and see them in a different perspective rather than being on the other side of them, definitely had to make that decision. As I'm definitely grateful for.
You've been in the league for several years now, 4 years, but the Bills have really been a team that's ascending. So as you're watching them from the outside, you ever think like, man, that would be fun to be part of someday?
No, 100%. Like last year, what you guys put 30, 35 points up every single game. You see what I'm saying? That's, as a receiver, it's like, yo, that's very intriguing. And obviously 17 and just the success that he's had and the way that he impacts the football field, not even just with the receivers, with his legs, with his brain. You know what I'm saying? It's when you play receiver and you watch the film, and it's not just on the TV, like from a fan perspective, and then we really get to go see what he's doing and what the team is doing. It's definitely something that I think any football player team would want to be a part of.
How do you feel like you can fit in with this team, right? You already mentioned the whole like everybody eats thing. That's been the mantra here for the last couple of years. But how do you feel like your skill set can be utilized on a team like this?
I feel like my skill set would be utilized well. As far as how I view myself coming in, I'm just ready to work and earn it. You know what I'm saying? I see that we have on this team already a lot of guys that have been doing it at a high level, and obviously guys been in and out, but you guys do have consistency in the receiver room and just all over the field. But I feel like as far as what I bring, it's kind of not like similar to the other guys in the room, so it's kind of like college, when you're picking a school that you want to go to and you evaluate the opportunity, you want to pick somewhere where you feel as if that your talent isn't really there, or else it's not going to really work well, So as far as what I can do, I feel like I can stretch the field. I feel like, I can play the role. I can open guys up. You know what I'm saying? I feel like even just the presence with how many people are on the field that can do good things with the ball, it's just only another weapon, and just want to earn it, move humble, move in a way that, everybody kind of can say, okay, he's going to go get it, So that's always been my mantra. It's always been what I stand for. And I just feel like I just fit well with just the guys in the room.
Last one for me, but you've said it a couple times, like, hey, 17, right? Like you watch 17 from the outside. How big of a factor is that for a free agent who is in this position, right? You want to take the best opportunity available. The MVP of the league is on this team. Like, how much does that help sway your decision?
It's very, very easy. At the end of the day, like I leave all my, decision making to the Lord, but everywhere I went, like literally, you asked my wife, I would see a 17 jersey. You see what I'm saying? And that was enough, for me to make that decision. And he's just a phenomenal player. And just what I've heard in the building and just around the league, he's an even better, phenomenal person. So it's not hard to get behind that,
You know what we were talking about, actually, after I finished talking to Elijah on camera there? Thank him for doing that, by the way. How when you buy a car, you start to see that car more and more. That's what it was like. Hey, he saw the Josh Allen jerseys everywhere, and now that he's on the Bills, he's going to continue to see them everywhere. It's like when you go on vacation, right? Like, let's say you go to Disney World or something. You leave Western New York, and then all you do is see hats of the Bandits and the Bills and the Bisons and the Sabres and whatever it is. So it's funny how that works out. So a sign, really, the stars aligning for Elijah Moore to ultimately come to Buffalo. So thank you to Elijah for taking the time to talk today, but also shout out on the short notice to both Mike Catalana from Buffalo Plus and Howard Simon, who's one of our contributors, longtime WGR host, for joining us today, because obviously I was by myself. I needed some friends to talk to, so I appreciate them doing that. So thank you so much for watching another episode of Leading the Charge this offseason. We'll be back again on Monday, a week from today. Have a lovely rest of your Monday night, and have a good week, everyone. Thank you all on the app for watching, on the website. We've got 800 people watching, so that's pretty cool. Thank you. We'll continue to do this every single week. We've got some really fun stuff planned for about a month from now, but we'll talk about that when we get to that point a month from now. So thank you for the comments. Thank you for the questions. Always appreciate everybody watching, and hope you all have a great week, and we will talk to you guys soon. Bye, y'all.